Here.
Here, everyone please rise for Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, I understand there's one or two changes, additions to the agenda. Councilman Casella raised it, so before we had the motion to adopt.
Yeah, so there's a couple of changes we want to make here. So the first one is we want to add a resolution in for authorizing a refund for a benefit assessment. So that's one. We actually have the paperwork here. It came a little late on Thursday. Second one we want to do is we want to add an interview because we're doing an interview tonight for the Board of Assessment. And the third thing we'd like to do right after we do the motion to part of this is we want to move the National Child Abuse Prevention Month. We want to move that up to, again, right after motion to. So those are the three changes. I know I need unanimous consent in order to do that. So I don't know, Joe, if you have to call a roll call.
Move.
Second.
Good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions?
Thank you.
Seeing none, motion passed. Thank you, Councilman. Next item is to acknowledge the minutes of the first one will be the March 28th meeting.
Move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Next motion will be to approve the minutes of the April 2nd workshop.
I'll move it.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Okay, in light of the amended agenda, I'd like to invite Kimberly Haight to come up to the podium. And while she's doing it, the board and I decided that we wanted to recognize, the child prevention abuse, and this is the month, that we have for determining and declaring that April is the month for recognizing that. So I asked Kim to come here tonight, and Betsy Brown also accompanied her. I just like to say a brief few words, Kim, although you have a lot of background that's more than worthy of recognition. But Kim's been in the nonprofit sector for many, many years, and she's focused much of her time and energy on social issues that concern the health and welfare of our children, which are near and dear to all of us. She started actually in the early part of her career doing case management, and then more recently has been the executive director of the Center for the Prevention of Child Abuse for approximately 5 years, and that's based in Poughkeepsie, but near and dear to all of us. Since she assumed her role in that position as executive director, she's really expanded, the operations, focusing on various therapeutic ways to improve the quality of life for our children and their families, and has been an advocate of it, particularly also for trauma relief. And we'll hear more about really what is a crisis in the United States. And when Kim's done, I'll ask the board to approve a proclamation that I prepared and have sent to them, which I'll read in the record. So, Kim, the board and I, really welcome you here to share some of your insight to our public, and we look forward to hearing from you now. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the warm welcome. I'd like to start by sharing just a small statistic that we know in Dutchess County approximately 1,000 reports of child abuse are made every single year. And we know that as many as 5 times as many go unreported, which leads us to a total of 6,000 children annually that are in need of support, care, therapy, love. And so we at the center work very hard to support children in as many ways as we can. We start by teaching children as young as preschool how to identify abuse and what to do if they think something's gone wrong. We support children in that way all the way through 8th grade, providing lessons not only in keeping their bodies safe, but also how to stay safe online and internet safety. In addition to that, we provide parenting programs for specialized populations that face unique challenges that impact their parenting. And we also provide education to the community, which is a big part of the reason that I'm here today. The Dutchess County Child Advocacy Center is also housed at the CPCA, and that's the investigative body for the very most severe cases of abuse in all of Dutchess County. So all of that together, I will be the very first one to tell you that my staff is incredible. They are first class, second to none, highly trained, highly motivated, highly compassionate people, but there are less than 20 of us. And so for less than 20 very passionate people to reach a population of 6,000 children is nearly impossible. So we have come before you today and the guests that you have here to thank you for being a community that is invested in supporting children, because we know that the center can't do it alone. It takes towns and villages and communities all stepping forward and saying, we care about our children. So I will close with that and say again, from the bottom of my heart, on the behalf of the children that we serve, thank you for taking time out of your evening tonight to recognize the importance of keeping children safe.
What is your basic contact information? And then we'll also put it on our website, but just for the public that's listening
Sure.
and watching.
You can reach our website is thecpca.org, thecpca.org. Our office telephone line is 845-454-0595.
And you're located in Poughkeepsie, if somebody wants to come in, or do they need appointment? How do you
We
handle
are
that?
located in the town of Poughkeepsie. Our office is located at 35 Van Wagner Road. The best way to reach us is to contact us by phone so that we can make sure to have the appropriate individuals on site if there is a question. As you can imagine, a lot of the work that we do is community-based, so we want to be able to connect people with the right specialist for the concern that they're calling about.
Thank you. Do you have also legal specialists as well, or are there,
Well,
how do you
we work-
handle pro bono work if you do for
We
special needs?
don't have an attorney on staff. We work very closely with the Dutchess County Department of Community and Family Services through CPS. We also have on-site co-located law enforcement. So we have the New York State Police, the Dutchess County Sheriff's Office, and the City of Poughkeepsie. So they help with the joint investigations of child abuse and have also been very helpful for our staff in guiding, trainings and, trends and that sorts of things.
I notice you're wearing blue, which is the color.
Yes, blue.
That's what I'm wearing, blue.
Blue is the color for Child Abuse Prevention Month. And anyone else that is interested in learning more about what we do or supporting us, we are having a gala on May 12th.
Okay.
It is the Champions Against Child Abuse Award celebration, and we are honoring our partners in law enforcement this year. We're very excited to be able to do that. Over the past 2 years with COVID, the work that they've done has been tremendous, and we know we have seen the real benefits to having such a proactive team in our community, and we're very excited to honor them.
Thank you. Any board members that have a question? And I also open the floor since it's a little bit out of sync with our normal public portion, but any board members like to say anything?
Just briefly, the work that you and your organization do is heroes' work, and much of what you do is really unspoken of. And for you to stand up here publicly, not only before this board, but also on our cable channel and on our streams, people are watching right now, and this awareness that you're bringing to the community is very valuable. So please keep up the good work. Dutchess County is lucky to have you and your team.
Thank you so much.
I'd just like to thank you and your staff for all the hard work you do, because what little I've seen is terrible, so thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'd also like to say thank you as well. It's a great cause. I worked with one of your Director of Development, Rachel, so I know her very, very well. And I was happy to actually be one of the contributors to your event that's coming up on May 12th. But you guys do great work, and some of the cases she talks about are very sad, but there's a lot of happy endings, and I'm glad to hear that. So keep up the great work you're doing, and thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
It's just ongoing, and it's very difficult, and it's very thankful for all of us.
Yeah.
So thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
Anybody else in the audience that'd like to say anything? Yes, John?
They are a great organization. I've had some experience in working with them in the past. I'm kudos to them for their support for.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, if
Can I read you?
nobody else, I have a proclamation I'd like to read
Sure.
and then have the board just approve at the end of that. And so, I'd like to just read this. It's a little bit longer. I got a little bit long-winded, but it's a very important topic to all of us. Whereas child abuse and neglect pose serious threats to our children, and whereas children who have been abused or neglected have a higher risk of developing various health problems as adults, including alcoholism, depression, drug abuse, eating disorders, obesity, suicide, and certain chronic diseases. And whereas statistics have shown that 1 in 10 children will be sexually abused before their 18th birthday, 5 children die each day in the United States from abuse. In New York in 2020, there were 59,126 victims of child abuse. I think I'm close, if not accurate, resulting in 105 fatalities. In Dutchess County alone, and Kim mentioned this, over 1,000 cases of child abuse are reported each year, and about 5 times that go unreported. So that's your 6,000 that you mentioned. Whereas the town of Wappinger recognizes the importance of increasing awareness of the warning signs to recognize and report the abuse of children, while prevention of abuse, neglect, and maltreatment, remember it's all those categories of children, remains the best defense. Whereas the town of Wappinger is committed to supporting programs and initiatives designed to prevent and stop the abuse, neglect, and maltreatment, and whereas effective programs do succeed because of partnerships among local governments, human service agencies, community-based organizations, schools, faith-based organizations, law enforcement, and the business community. And I think just adding a little bit, not in the resolution, we have a lot of strength in that area in our community. Whereas the Center for the Prevention of Child Abuse, CPCA, a private nonprofit organization located in Poughkeepsie, has been dedicated to the reduction of child maltreatment since 1973. And whereas the CPCA recognizes the importance of families and communities working together to strengthen families to prevent child abuse, and whereas each year the President of the United States issues a proclamation announcing April as National Child Abuse Prevention Month, which was proclaimed this year by President Biden on March 31st, 2022. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Wappinger does hereby acknowledge the month of April 2022 as Child Abuse Prevention Month, and encourages the people of the Town of Wappinger to work together with the CPCA to support youth-serving child abuse prevention activities in our community and during April and throughout the year.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Kim and Betsy, if you would just come
go
up to
down
the
front,
front.
yeah.
How about we go
Everybody
down
can
there so she doesn't have to come up?
Yeah, no, I don't mean for her to walk up.
No sudden movements, please, Kim.
Everybody, Betsy?
May 12th.
So as part of ongoing programs that I've initiated to try to bring different information to the community, some of which is controversial, some of which is not, tonight I would like to introduce Central Hudson, to come before and talk to us. We've worked very closely with them, but there are certainly a lot of issues, concerns, and a lot of things that also the public may not know. So I'd like to, John, you can come up to the podium. But introduce yourself, who you are. You can introduce your team as well. I know some of them, but not all. So why don't you introduce yourself, and then, the floor is yours.
Good evening, and thank you for having us. My name is John Masurgeon. I'm Media Relations Director for Central Hudson. I work in the Public Relations Department. And with me is Amanda Saccato, Joe Jenkins, Kerry Pratt, and Mark Alston. They're here in a support role tonight in the event that anyone in the room might have any questions or issues about their bill. We'd be happy to take it offline outside and review their bill with them and help them resolve whatever questions or concerns they may have.
I should have told my wife.
We're just a short phone call away.
Yeah.
So tonight, we're here to review the increases in energy costs that's taking place worldwide and unfortunately here in the Hudson Valley, our customer assistance and payment programs that we offer, and some of the challenges related to Central Hudson's adoption of our new customer service platform and billing system. So let me go over the rising energy costs first. We're seeing certain global events, particularly some of the issues we're seeing in Eastern Europe, and a strong demand for energy here at home and abroad. And these continue to place upward pressure on energy prices and other goods. And this is unfortunately creating a financial burden for everyone. The prices for heating oil, propane, gasoline are also up as well. And we're going to review some of the causes for this and some of the steps that Central Hudson's taken to help mitigate these spikes in the market prices. And we looked at the New York Mercantile Exchange and Market and some reports from market analysts. And unfortunately, they're predicting higher costs for energy will be sustained throughout 2022 and perhaps into the winter of 2023, particularly in light of all the events, the global events that are occurring and some of the increases in demand for energy, particularly the energy crisis that's taking place in Europe. And you may wonder, how does that affect our markets here? The United States has become a net exporter of energy, particularly liquefied natural gas, to Europe to help stem some of the shortages that they're having over there. And that is partly the cause of the rise in energy prices here in the United States, and especially in New York. As natural gas prices, as demand increases for natural gas, the price increases. And in New York State, natural gas power plants are responsible for about half of the electricity that's produced here. So it's having an effect on both our heating prices and also on our power prices. Other factors that are contributing to higher prices here is constrained pipeline capacity. So there are not enough pipelines reaching the eastern part, the Northeast, to satisfy the demands for natural gas. Regionally, there's an increased reliance on natural gas for power generation with the closure of Indian Point. And also there's an improvement in the economy, which is driving demand for all goods, including energy, placing pressure on a once curtailed energy production system that is now trying to catch up and produce enough energy to meet these growing demands. Apparently, it's very easy to close down these energy production facilities, as we saw during the height of the pandemic. Getting them back up and running is another matter. It's taking some effort on the part of producers to get production back up to where it needs to be. So electric and natural gas bills are divided into three main components. There is delivery, taxes, and supply. And delivery charges and taxes are regulated. So the prices for delivery and taxes are fixed. The price, and these prices have not risen. Supply charges are for the electricity and natural gas itself, and these are provided by independent generators and suppliers, and it's these prices that we've seen go up sharply in recent months. And both usage and prices determine the total utility bill. So The supply price on utility bills represent the prevailing market prices for electricity and natural gas. Central Hudson and utilities in New York do not mark up these prices. Our customers pay what Central Hudson pays. These are pass-throughs. And these higher prices may also be experienced by customers who receive their energy supply from a third party or an energy service company. I'll go over what we've seen in terms of the price increases for electricity and natural gas in recent months to give an idea of where they're headed and some of the volatility that we're seeing. So, the sharp price increases first began in February when the supply price for natural gas rose 33% as compared to January, and electric supply prices more than doubled as compared to January. Then in March, the natural gas prices rose again by about 24%, but electricity prices fell by 46%. And this month, natural gas supplies rose again by 6%, and electric supply prices rose by 18%. So not as high as it was earlier, but still an increase. So something to note also here, remember since March 2020, Central Hudson has not suspended utility services and has not charged late fees. So if folks are having trouble with their utility bills, we are not turning off service and we're not charging late fees. Central Hudson employs hedging measures to stabilize natural gas and electric supply costs against the fluctuations in the markets. These measures include contracting a portion of energy at fixed prices and also purchasing natural gas at pre-season prices and placing it into storage, drawing on that lower cost gas when prices start to rise. And for the February billing period, these hedging measures reduced the impact of market prices by about 28% for electricity and 30% for natural gas. And for the March billing period, the hedging lowered electric supply prices by about 11% and natural gas prices by 24%. So these hedging practices that we've employed, mainly to control volatility, has actually lowered our customers' bills. However, the price spikes were still significant. So we know high energy costs harm our customers and the communities we serve. We are in conversation with the New York State Public Service Commission to see if there are other measures that we might be able to employ in the immediate future to help mitigate some of these higher prices, especially because we see ongoing volatility and higher levels of energy through the end of the year. We also would call on our state and federal representatives to enact energy policies that allow for the expansion of some of our critical energy infrastructure of all types, renewable and conventional, and to diversify our energy supplies to help provide more stable prices. And we also, we understand the hardship that higher energy costs places on our communities. In turn, we continue to provide support to area agencies and to support employment growth in the region. For example, in 2021, Central Hudson and our employees contributed about $1.4 million to community agencies throughout, and economic development programs throughout our service area. Right here in the town of Wappinger, our economic development grants of $300,000 were provided to the Hudson Valley Lighting and to fund related infrastructure investments at the Dutchess County Airport. And energy efficiency incentives of more than $1.5 million were provided to the town of Wappinger businesses and to the school district that helped improve interior lighting with high-efficiency lights and other high-efficiency equipment. Residents received incentives for heat pumps and other energy-saving equipment through continuing programs to help lower their energy bills. And in addition, Central Hudson conducted a safety and emergency response presentation to the Houstonville Fire District, as we often work together when we address emergency response. Water.
Thank you to Central Hudson, by the way, for the gas safety drill that was provided to the Hackensack and Houstonville Fire Departments. Over 50 firefighters were in attendance for that. And that was not just a PowerPoint. That was hands-on practical training with actual risers and meters and all sorts of stuff. So we felt that Central Hudson went above and beyond for that, and we greatly appreciate that outreach training.
No, thank you for saying so. Yeah, and we're also developing a training center in the town of Ulster, in Ulster County, and when that's complete, that'll also have hands-on training available to emergency responders. But getting back to our bills, what options are available for our customers? And we do offer customer assistance programs. We offer payment assistance programs for qualifying customers. For example, customers who qualify for the Home Energy Assistance Program, or HEAP grants, are also eligible for Central Hudson's bill discount program. So that means if you qualify for HEAP, you'll see a continuing discount on the bill for 12 months. Also, and it's not just HEAP qualification. The customer could also be in Lifeline, SNAP, Medicaid. They could be part of the Federal Public Housing Assistance or Veterans Pension or Survivors Pension. So any of our customers who are enrolled in these programs can also qualify for the bill discount. And this information is available on our website. I'll go over that, towards the end of the presentation. Central Hudson also has a Good Neighbor Fund that provides grants to help pay for energy bills for local residents who have exhausted all other forms of public and private assistance. And again, the information is available on our website. We are offering extended payment plans for our customers who have trouble paying their utility bills at no cost and without interest to fit each customer's individual needs. So it's not a one-size-fits-all payment plan. We'll talk to each household, see what they need to do, and we'll work with them one-on-one to help them with their energy bills. We do have a budget billing program that's been popular. It's helped many of our customers. It divides a household's average annual bills into 11 even monthly payments. That way you avoid the seasonality of the ups and downs of energy use and energy bills. There's a adjustment on the 6th month if needed, and there's a reconciliation up or down on the 12th month to reflect actual usage and market prices. We do offer discounts and incentives for energy efficiency programs. For example, some of the larger home centers and also some of the smaller home centers, we work with them to offer discounts on LED lighting and other energy-saving devices right at the register, so there's no need to mail in a rebate. We have more information on our energy efficiency programs on our website. And something else to consider, New York has a deregulated electricity market, and our customers can purchase energy from third-party suppliers. Some of these third-party suppliers offer fixed-rate options for electricity or natural gas. It may not be the low-cost option, but it certainly protects against the volatility that we're seeing in the market today. So that's an option for them as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our billing system, which I think has also garnered quite a bit of concern with our customers. We've undertaken a major initiative to replace a 40-year-old system with a new platform that's going to allow us to meet the expanding energy options that are available to our customers now and in the future. This transition has come with its challenges. We know we're not meeting many of our customers' expectations, nor are we meeting our own standards. The improvements to the system are being made. They're ongoing. We've made some significant progress. However, there's a segment of our customers who are still experiencing issues. Examples of the sort of programs that are made available to our customers now are community solar, solar net metering, community choice aggregation, and we do expect in the future that there will be more types of utility services and options available to our customers as we transition to a greener energy grid. And with these programs, they're placing greater demands on our customer services platforms and billing systems. Our legacy program could not handle it. Many of the bills that we were doing were being done by hand, which is not an efficient way to work, especially as more and more customers are enrolling in these programs. So we did have to switch to a new, different system, but again, this transition has been challenging to say the least. While many of the problems have been fixed, there are some areas that we continue to see some problems, and these include accounts that purchase electricity or gas from third parties, especially when paired with budget billing, customers enrolled in community solar, and customers who install their own solar panels and are in the net metering program. Now, many of these issues have been fixed or nearly fixed, so we do expect to see these problems resolved likely this month. But the segment of our customers have not received bills for several months, and some customers have received bills that have been canceled and rebilled, causing additional confusion. And we are focused on debugging these problems and issuing corrected bills to our customers where we see that there's been a problem. We also know that there's concerns with estimated bills. And let me give you some background on that. Prior to 2016, Central Hudson billed bi-monthly. We read the meters every other month, and we sent bills every other month. In 2016, the state regulators required Central Hudson issue monthly bills. And to avoid raising costs for our customers, the state approved a plan to alternate estimated usage with actual usage every other month. And we've been doing that with our residential accounts since 2016. We switched to the new billing system, and since last fall, a subset of our customers received estimated bills for several consecutive months. And while the meters for most of these accounts were read as scheduled every other month, the billing system overwrote the actual meter reads with the estimates. So we identified the problem. We are now correcting the back bills, and we're actively recalculating and reissuing these bills with the actual meter reads that we have on file. So we know how much energy everyone used, but the bills didn't reflect that. Now we're going back and rebilling. And we know that is causing some confusion and consternation with our customers. We also know that there are long hold times getting through to an experienced customer service representative. And we're addressing this by bringing in additional representatives into our contact center. We do expect to see improvements this month. Customer service is at the heart of what we do, and we are committed to successfully finalizing the transition to our new billing platform and providing the high level of customer services that our customers expect. And I'm happy to take any questions.
So we can, board members, but also the audience, we have a Q&A period that I built in. So if there's any questions, maybe first the board, wants to raise a couple.
I do have to tell you, your help center, they're very patient, and they really do try to help. And I've called multiple times for residents and myself, and they really are very professional, and they do get back to you. So kudos to them.
No.
Seriously, you have a good customer service. You do have to wait,
No,
but it's worth the wait.
Thank you for saying so.
So, as difficult of a time this is, because it is difficult. People are not happy. I mean,
No.
even myself, I've gotten 3 bills, and they're all different, and I'm on a budget plan. So, you have some work to do.
Yeah.
I know that you also changed you were talking about your software, so you use SAP now?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's a learning curve, to say the least, on that.
I think everybody's going through that, unfortunately. I know
We also had that at
companies
our
are.
company as well,
Yeah.
some learning issues there. A couple of things, though. that happened, I think, in the last, just things I saw, because again, I'm on a budget. So one thing that wasn't identified is, number one, we're going from a yearly, now we're going to do it every 6 months. We're going to basically update it. So that was never communicated, at least not something I saw. Account numbers changed, so that was a problem too. So the billing issues were there. I got no billings for 3 months. Called up Central Hudson. Didn't have as good a reception as Angela had, but they did get back to me, and we were able to figure out. And I had the money set aside because just didn't know why they weren't billing us. So that took care of that. But I will say that one of the things you did clarify tonight was really it's only delivery costs is really you have control over. The other couple of things you don't have control over, it's just simply a pass-through. And I think that's something that the residents need to understand. Again, that's out of your control. Now, I don't know how much your delivery costs have gone up, so that's something that you could probably take a look at. But do you have any idea of how much it's gone up in the last 3 to 6 months?
Well, delivery costs, we had a change in delivery costs in November through a rate plan that was approved by the Public Service Commission. The electric delivery costs actually decreased slightly by about 0.25%, and natural gas delivery costs increased by, I think, 1.2%.
Okay.
And going forward, there's another scheduled increase in July, and then next July, they're less than 2% a year for electricity and natural gas, on the order of 1.2, 1.4, 1.6%. So they are modest. When we filed our rate plan, we recognized what was happening, with the economy and employment and the troubles people were having. And we worked with the Public Service Commission to postpone some major projects so that the impact of the new rate plan would be minimal for our customers. Unfortunately, we experienced a sharp rise in supply costs that negated all of those efforts. So we're back working with the Public Service Commission, just like all the other utilities are, and not just in New York, but across the country, to see what we can do to help mitigate these prices.
Do you have any idea how many customers that you're still working with that are still seeing a lot of issues out there where, we've heard a lot of people getting a $1,000 bill, $1,200 bill, something we weren't expecting,
Yeah.
something they hadn't budgeted for. When you have people on a fixed income, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So,
I agree.
so is this, where are you at here? 75% fixed, 80% fixed? And are you working with the remaining, whatever, customers that are out there that still have issues?
I think we're probably down to maybe a couple thousand customers left who we're still working to get their bills corrected. But I'm going to say, too, that issuing the corrected bills is an issue in and of itself, because our customers are receiving these corrected bills and not necessarily understanding what they're seeing and what they're getting. And then, so they need to call into us to get an explanation of what's happening, and getting through to us is a lengthy process as well. So we are actively fixing that.
I do like the fact, though, that you are working with customers, allowing to extend payment terms. You're not shutting off electricity. I think that's honorable. There's a lot of stuff going on out there. Inflation's up significantly, and people are paying higher prices at the pump, and it's affecting a lot of people. So, I understand, though, that, again, a lot of this is passed through, so it's not you. But it's good, and thank you for coming in tonight to explain all this detail. And I'm sure that folks tonight will probably have questions for you, so your phones will probably light up tomorrow. But
Sure.
Thank you for coming in tonight. I do appreciate it.
I think tomorrow.
John, thanks for being here. Full disclosure, in my daytime duties, I'm the county emergency manager. I work with Central Hudson on a regular basis, and can't say enough good things about their responsiveness to emergencies in Dutchess County 24/7. Certainly, I know that they go above and beyond in those cases. Many times the end user doesn't realize the amount of work that's going on to try to get them power back on, but I can tell you firsthand that they are very diligent in that process. Now, in this role, obviously, we have to advocate for our citizens, which are very anxious. I can tell you that I am too, and I think you are too, because we have an unknown here that we're facing that's creating this volatility. We have a roller coaster of rates that's going from anywhere from 4 cents per kilowatt hour back in November of 2020 up to 21 cents in February of 2022, right? That's significant, significant. And, you know, for folks to rest comfortably at any given moment now, seeing a fluctuation like that on the electric side is challenging.
Yeah,
If you have go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, prior to February, the average price per kilowatt hour hovered in that 6 cent range.
Right, pretty
So,
consistently,
yeah.
pretty consistently.
Yeah.
But then it jumps up to 20 cents. And then on the gas side, we have a similar situation with a significant increase as well. I mean, going back to, you know, 35 cents per 100 cubic feet to 92 cents, right? I mean, these are significant fluctuations that are coming from within the supply chain to you, correct?
Yes.
Right. So Central Hudson, as basically the entity that's delivering the energy, is getting this increase before it gets to them, right? And we have to look at why that's happening, and I'm not getting into that whole situation. But what I can say is, during our last meeting, we talked about another unknown, which is the assessment increases, right? So we have folks that are getting through COVID right now, some folks going back to work, other folks still looking for work, some folks working from home, still a lot of unknowns in the air. And they're getting all these additional unknowns from the town side, from the assessment process, and now Central Hudson, I'll just say power utility, right? Because it's not just Central Hudson. NYSEG sees the same thing right across the board, right? And this is a situation that I believe our state representatives need to be more engaged in trying to hedge, just as Central Hudson is doing so. The state of New York needs to understand that we can't just automatically shut off fossil fuels and expect folks to have energy prices that are affordable. And that's basically what's happening, okay? There's initiatives to stop using natural gas, and I've talked about this before, shutting down Indian Point. And listen, I'm all about green, renewable energy. I have 2 kids, obviously, but trying to do this in such a short-term, timeline is what creates this type of volatility. We need to be doing our jobs as elected officials on the state level and the federal level. And my opinion is their job is to make sure that folks have affordable energy, okay, for commerce, economics, and for being able to rest comfortably in your own home, right? We've had this initiative for the last 5-10 years to switch over to LED, right? We've done it in this town, street lights, and a number of other appliances. And Steve is our Buildings and Grounds Director. You know, we're always working to try to improve the efficiency of the town in a way that is going to be, more environmentally engaging, right? But we have no control over this. And the folks that are sitting at home right now that are watching this, or the folks that are in the audience, have no control over this. And that's where this really becomes frustrating. All I can say from my perspective is I hope that in this community and in this state, we can have more of a stable energy price at some point moving forward. But because we don't at the moment, and because there's been billing issues and there's been estimation issues, which I've been a victim of also, we just need to make sure that you understand how important it is for folks to get a live person on the phone, right? And I know that it's easy for me to say this, right? But when folks are calling us and we're telling them to call Central Hudson, it's important that somebody answer the phone and take their calls during business hours and be able to explain exactly what's going on. To have bill after bill with underestimates on it, and that's what happened to me, right? So I went and did all the math, right? After the 4th month, when I got the big bill, then I averaged it back and looked at what the rates were, and no, I wasn't overcharged. It was just that I got the big bill on that 4th month, or whatever it was. And it's basically because of the increase that we're seeing here that you explained. Unfortunately, it's hitting everybody all at once on that last bill, and that's where it's becoming really a challenge. And, there are folks out there that, as the councilman mentioned, are on fixed incomes. They're not prepared to pay these large bills. I understand you're making some arrangements to extend the pay payment process, payment plan process. But for me, as an elected official, the anxiety level that is being created by this is really challenging, especially for the folks that are seniors that live by themselves, and they have to make a choice, you know, do I pay my electric bill or do I buy food for the refrigerator? And that's something we don't want to really be seeing happening in our town. So that's from my perspective as a councilman.
Thank you. And we have very conscientious customers who want to pay their bills, who want to know what they use. They want to be charged for what they use, no more, no less. They want it to be fair, and they feel, you know, strongly about paying their bills, which is fantastic. And we realize that this situation is putting them in a very uncomfortable situation, creating anxiety for them. I think one of the best things we can do right now is to make sure that our contact center is well-staffed and can take the calls. That would alleviate a lot of concerns.
Thank you.
Well, I thank you very much for coming in with the explanation. I echo the sentiments, same billing issues. I'm glad you explained it. I'm glad you're working with the customers, because you, let's face it, you're the easy target, right? Because it's all your fault. But if people really look into it and realize that, you know, your pricing is actually a small part of it. It's the economic issues that were going on, and as Bill alluded to, you could go down whichever road and blame somebody. But thank you so much for coming in and explaining it a little bit better. Doesn't solve the problems, but it makes it kind of palatable. So again, thank you.
Before I open up questions, any from the floor, I'd like to, you know, add a topic which hasn't been discussed, and that's, you know, what happens when there's a major storm, you know, power failure. And, you know, I like to say that actually since, you know, when I took office, Denise was still involved, Denise Van Buren, and she is a resident, you know, so, but they made a very strong effort. And then over the last few years, we've had several very fine people that have come to our help, and Carrie Pratt is, you know, right now the named person. So we have, for our residents, you know, if there is ever any problem during a storm or other event, then we have immediate access. And I can say, at least in the town of Wappinger, you know, and Mike Sheehan, our highway department, our superintendent, also works very closely with, you know, the Central Hudson. And we've had immediate responsiveness. I know other areas have had issues. You know, Bill, in his capacity, we have Central Hudson on the phone calls for emergency, and there were some earlier snafus. But in this town, I applaud the service. And where there have been issues, I know we've had even where power's gone out, somebody was on life support, or, you know, with some sort of medical treatment. You know, one of the residents up in Angela's ward had some serious issues, and immediately, you know, Central Hudson was responsive. But if somebody in our, you know, residents do have a problem and you're not able to get through to Central Hudson storm, then give us a call. You know, certainly give me a call. I have direct access to Carrie. Carrie, stand up, you know, just show yourself that you are here. But she takes a very, you know, strong interest in helping us. You know, we have a number of other matters that come before the town. I think also, while there were complaints, as there would be, but I also want to commend you on the overall excellent work in the rehabilitation of your power lines, you know, changing out poles. You know, I found that as I surveyed them, very conscientious efforts to try to keep the wetlands, you know, undamaged as best you can. And so I've been pleased in that, and I hope you continue to have that dialogue. Not that there aren't issues, but I found you to be responsive in that area, which is also equally important to our community, and the ability to get through the roads, electric lines go down. Mike can't deal with trees unless Central Hudson gets their crew out there. So I don't know, I know there's issues, but.
So as the supervisor's saying, you know, when we're in a state of emergency and we're dealing with Central Hudson, the responsiveness is incredible. And I've seen that, and I just would be more comfortable if the customer service capacity right now especially could be ramped up so that these residents that are upset can have that same level of
Agreed.
responsiveness And I understand that in some cases, you can't necessarily find a solution immediately, but if these folks know that there's payment plans available and they're hearing it from you directly on the phone, and they understand also that perhaps the bill they're looking at is not the accurate version, I think that's going to really help people feel a little more comfortable with what's happening right now. And again, I just want to thank you, John, for being here, but I got to give Victor Narkaj a shout out also. Victor, I deal with on a regular basis when anything's going wrong in the county itself, but Mark Mulpeter and the whole team. I can tell you folks that are watching, I've been in exercises and drills with Central Hudson. These are among the most professional individuals to work with. Unfortunately, Central Hudson right now is facing this crisis from above, I'll call it. It's basically rate increases that are coming from beyond them, and they are the conduit right here for this area, and having to deal with this. And looking at the numbers, you can go on their website, you can look at these unbelievable rate fluctuations that, my opinion, on the state level, there are states in this country that regulate and stabilize these types of things before they get to the utility companies, right? Something needs to be done on the state level. We cannot continue to move forward with 40 and 50% increases and then 30% decrease. That's a roller coaster. And unfortunately, my opinion is Central Hudson's caught in the middle of that right now. And there needs to be a solution, and it needs to come from either the state or federal government, because this cannot be the norm. We cannot allow this to be the way we're going to live now. We're going to have to guess plus or minus $500 what our energy bill is going to be. That's ridiculous. So that said, again, I thank Central Hudson for being here, and if you can ramp up that call center, I'll be even happier. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you on your bills, just a quick question on your bills, do you offer the options on your bills? So in other words, if you have to do an installment payment or anything else, do you offer that there rather than going to your website? Because a lot of folks aren't going to go to your website. We have that same issue with
Right.
some of the things we put in our town. So do you offer that at all on the bills themselves, so that, if there's a senior or somebody that wants to be able to do, or they're going to have a late payment, here's the number you can call, or I'd like to, extend my payment. Do you have those numbers available in the actual bill? Because I get mine online, so I'm saving
Yeah.
you guys a little bit of money. But so I'm just wondering, do you have that available?
We do put
Okay.
information on our bill. If you have an unusually high bill, there's two places. There's the larger space where we put information, and that could vary between this sort of information, safety information, that sort of thing. There's also something called bill messages that are smaller at the top of the bill that gives our contact information. We need to do a better job answering the phones. So
If you have a phone number dedicated for the residents to call for the plans that IBM, didn't mean to say that.
that's right.
But what Central Hudson is offering as far as payment plans, that would probably alleviate the workload that comes into that one number and set it up that way. Because a lot of people do not know the plans that are out there.
yeah, I will take that
And
under
then,
advisement.
You
Thanks.
have the people that have problems with their bills, and then you have the people that need help.
Right.
And especially the seniors. They're not going to go online, they're not going to do this.
We are working with an outside call center to help us with the overflow. And the outside call center should be capable of enrolling a customer into a payment
Okay.
plan. And they're easier to get in touch with. When there's a complicated billing matter that they cannot address, then they refer them to our internal contact representatives, customer service representatives. And that's where, right now, we're cramped. And that's the area that we're going to be expanding. But you should be able to get through to get a payment plan pretty easily.
Okay, good.
I mean, I've had instances where people are just starting out,
Yeah,
they have a baby, they have their electric bill, and they want to get on a payment plan.
okay.
And then I have a senior, well, what am I going to do? I'm a senior citizen, do I get a discount? So things along that line would be very helpful.
Okay.
To let them know, here it is, or even sending out documentation.
Yeah,
Send documentation out to all your residents that these are the plans that are out there.
we have done that. We'll do it again.
I think especially
Yeah,
now.
right.
I'm sorry?
Get some paperwork for you guys here, also for the town hall if you want,
Right.
on different programs we have.
Okay.
Or just put it out on
That'd
the
be great.
website also.
Yeah.
I don't think all the plans are on your website. I don't think they're listed.
They are, and I can provide a link
Okay.
to our
It's good if they
webpage,
are.
or the section that shows where they are.
Okay.
But I think if you roll out the documentation also
Right.
to the
Yep.
people that do not go on the website,
Right.
Yeah.
would be,
Right, you understand,
would be
not everyone
helpful for
does.
them.
Right, the seniors that don't use the computer
Right.
is a gap.
And they
that needs-
typically receive paper bills, and that's
Yeah,
an
but-
ideal vehicle to have this information.
But when they call, like Carrie said, when they call here or they call us and they don't know where to go, it would be nice to say, we have hard copies at the
Right.
town clerk's office or on the information table.
Information.
Correct.
That provides options, just to kind of calm people down, because I'm sure you can imagine when folks are upset, it's often difficult for us as elected officials to give them any sense of calm. If we can say, listen, we've had Central Hudson here at the town hall, they provided us with a number of different options, they're at the town clerk's
You
office,
could pick them up, come here.
that would be helpful.
It
Yeah.
puts you in a difficult position. and, you know,
But then again,
we're
that's our
sorry for
job,
that,
you
so-
know,
But
our job is to
exactly.
advocate, and that's what we're doing right now.
And we're
you know.
trying to help them.
Right,
So with you, it would be beneficial to the, like, even the town halls, even maybe at the post offices. Here's the documentation for Central Hudson if you need assistance.
we do have outreach representatives who, for some time now, who are normally out in the community, and they rotate to different supermarkets and other public places. For health reasons, they have not been
Right.
out, but they are going back out now,
Right.
so that'll help too. But you had
The
some
documentation
great
would be very
suggestions.
helpful,
Yeah.
yeah.
One more question with respect to small businesses. So, as you can imagine, there's large businesses and small businesses, and, you know, the small businesses, the mom and pop shops particularly had a lot of challenges over the last 2 years. Do you offer options and services for small businesses that are in the same situation?
Yes, yes. We have the payment programs for them if they like to take advantage of it. We have some pretty helpful energy efficiency programs that can help them lower their bills and provide incentives to adopt more efficient equipment. And
Good.
we'll work with them one-on-one
Thank you.
as well.
That's,
Yeah.
Any questions from the floor? Yes, come on up and to the podium, identify yourself, and so the audience can also see.
My name is John Anderson. I live in 57 Dynell Road. Now, not to put you on the spot, but I know you have 309,000 customers, correct? How many of those are in a budget plan?
I think it's about 10%.
Only 10%. Well, my personal story, it's a little negative, is that we were on the budget plan. We were basically harangued that you were going to increase it back in February last year. I know it sounds negative. Bottom line, we didn't want to do it, said we're going to get money back, So, in January, you gave us a $1,200 check back that we had to ask for. Now, my question is, what are they doing with the budget plan money? If they had $1,200 of mine, and say 50,000 people had a fund someplace, that's $60 million. So whether or not it comes out is that I'm just letting you know that we said, we're going to pay too much. You're going to have to pay us back. So you guys said $1,200 of my money for 8 months, 6 months, beyond what we were supposed to pay, and nobody paid attention. And the only way I got somebody to pay attention is I called the Public Service Commission. And boy, if you want a response, if you want them to call you back,
Call the Public
Commission,
Service.
because they do respond to that. So that's where I heard from you from. So I know you're in the community relations, public service side, but whatever bleeds down to the bottom that's implemented by the people that are doing it, there's a problem. Because if they reviewed me and said I owed $1,200, or they increased my electric bill $1,200, they could have done the same review in September and November and stopped charging me so much. But instead, they sat there with $1,200 in some bank account. So even if that of those 10,000 people, there's 5,000 that have that, that's quite a bit of money that's sitting in an interest fund someplace. It's strange. It's just, I know it sounds negative, but there's something up. And the fact that I didn't get a response from anybody at Central Hudson until I called this up Public Service Commission. Now, a nice person called me back, and I asked them what they were going to do, and yada, 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 and they called me back in a week, and we solved the problem. They gave me some interest on the money that was there. But I'm wondering how many other citizens have got that same kind of issue going on. I'm just concerned.
Well, it does go both ways. There are some customers who, at the reconciliation point, owe money. There's nothing nefarious going on here. It's not being done on purpose. This is just an estimate, and it varies from account to account.
Right. The thing is, though, you have a person that thinks and sees these numbers. Somebody, I mean, it's entirely possible to recalculate every other couple months.
Well, maybe, John, if, John can give John, or you can talk with him out in the back, then we can
Well,
move
I
on.
just
Yeah.
wanted you to
Thank you.
know that
No,
there's
thanks.
that element that's out there that causes concern, especially.
Well, and it's happened to other people too, I think all of us know somebody where it's happened, so I
And with
think
due
that's right.
diligence, it can all be solved. Thank you.
Well, bureaucracies, though, don't necessarily are inclined to solve problems quickly, but I think, at least with Central Hudson here, and you can talk, further about it, and we can focus on it. But I think, getting back to what Councilman Beal had mentioned earlier, the concern, our residents, and why we're doing programs like this is it's the additive factor, right? We're talking about tax assessments, we're talking about Central Hudson today. Next meeting, we're going to have the school superintendent here, and there's another whole issue with school taxes, and, it keeps building, and so we have to deal with the whole picture to try to help our residents. So where you can work with us and we help make it explain better and then give some breaks and a sense of assistance, that's what's really important, because we're looking at it from multiple facets.
I think it's fair to say we're trying to stay ahead of these
Yeah.
issues that we see coming, right? Last meeting it was assessments.
meeting.
Central Hudson, appreciate you all coming here
Right.
and being visible and present. There's still folks that will contact us after this meeting that watch this and say, well, where do we go from here? I mean, is this type of volatility going to continue in the market? And I don't think you have an answer for that right now, because based on the sustained increase potential through winter and into 2023 or 4, that doesn't make me
Right.
too comfortable, John, but unfortunately, you're telling us the truth of what we potentially face here. So
Yep.
that said, we're trying to get out in front of these issues, bring the people here that can give us the best accurate information, and Mr. Anderson has valid points, clearly, and I'm sure that there are other folks that are watching this and are in a similar situation, and we would certainly recommend they contact you direct, and from a town board perspective, we, again, hope that the customer service end of it will be more responsive than it has been previously. We need live people to answer the phones. As we move forward, yes, the Wappinger Central School District is 76% of your tax bill, so we're going to have the superintendent here, not to put him on the spot, but he's willing to come, Dr. Bonk, and give us his perspective on the services that the school district provides to our residents and beyond. And this is the supervisor, this is his approach, and I think it's a smart approach, coming out of COVID with a lot of unknowns and a lot of anxiety, trying to get answers to the questions that our residents have. So I appreciate this approach, and certainly hope that we have more answers and questions at the end of the day.
Any other questions?
But thank you for coming up and
Yes, thank you for coming
voicing
tonight.
what happened to you, and as my colleagues have said, it probably has happened to other people also. And it's good to know, and we're trying to resolve whatever we can for everybody. So call that number, get those people, get whoever to answer that call center, and get the documentation out. Thank
Any
you.
other questions, comments from the floor? Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you very much
Central
for
Hudson
coming.
team, we appreciate it and look forward to continuing working with you. Yeah,
Thank you.
very much, thanks. Next item is our, public hearing section tonight. This is with respect to some local law.
Excuse me, your thermos is.
Thermos.
Yeah.
Law changes. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll move it.
Second.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. So now is the time that you can come up and make any comments with respect to the specified code changes that actually I think we've been talking about maybe 9 times or so. But please, come on up if you have any comments, come up to the podium. Okay, Seeing none, then we can...
Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Next item is our public portion of the meeting. So do I have a motion to open the public portion? This is for comments on other agenda items that we may
I'll
have.
move it.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. If anybody has any comments, please come up to the podium.
Hi, I'm Robin LaCarey. I live at 15 Red Hawk Hollow Road. My question is about what is on the agenda at this point. I noticed that there's been some changes. I think they're great changes, by the way. Now you can read the 111 pages of documentation that went out for this meeting. So I guess my question is, what is considered on the agenda at this point? Is it everything that's on the 111 pages, or is it something different?
Well, the 100 pages, Ms. Licari, are supporting materials,
Right.
for the agenda items. So the agenda items, basically, for the purpose of this public portion, is everything from, Section 7, discussions, including Section 8, resolutions, and then it would be, if there was other new items for business that are there, or we also have, it may or may not occur, some items after executive session. So it's basically every one of those sections that's on the agenda.
So everyone plus the two I added earlier in the
Okay.
discussion. So what we do is we have to go through unanimous consent here in order for me to put anything on the agenda. So the resolution to add, the authorization for the benefit assessment, and also to go into executive session to talk about Board of Assessment interview. So those two things are added. That's the only thing that's in addition to what you see out here.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm still confused. Is it everything on those 111 pages that were for tonight, or is it some, I'm sorry, I did not understand.
Yeah, so the agenda are the items that are set out, in the enumerated items I mentioned. And then
Okay.
all the other materials you just mentioned
Okay.
include specific resolutions, which are open for discussion,
Okay,
and also supporting materials
Right.
related to those, resolutions.
so that would be a yes then?
Yes,
Okay.
I mean, they're not
Okay,
listed
thanks.
on the agenda. The agenda
I
is
got it, I
the
got it.
abbreviated list of, titles,
Well,
that
thank
we're
you.
discussing.
I think that was
Yeah.
a great change, and I just wanted to mention that.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Any other questions, during the public portion of the meeting? Seeing none, do I have a motion to
Make a
close?
motion to close it.
Okay, motion second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Since we already had addressed the National Child Abuse Prevention Month, we'll move on, and the next item is related to Alpine Commons Development Plans. This is an introduction. Tonight, we've heard some previous comments, so I'd invite, Neil, are you going to be the spokesperson tonight? This is with respect to, I've asked them to provide, an overview of what we're talking about. Also, we will be having a proposal later on for text changes that will be then scheduling a public hearing with respect to those text changes. So, Counselor?
Good evening, everyone. For the record, my name is Neil Alexander. I'm a partner at the law firm of Cuddy and Fader. Supervisor, I would just elaborate a little bit on what you were doing and go back a little bit just for any of the public who's sort of curious. Actually, let me go even further back. We have our team here tonight, so we'll introduce them all along the way. But basically, on January 19th of this year, Diamond Properties sent you and the town board a letter basically saying that they had bought the Alpine Commons Center many years ago, and they were working on turning it around, and they were working assiduously on that. And what they had been experiencing from a leasing standpoint was that the phone calls they were getting weren't aligning with where the code was. And they made some suggestions, and you all had us, we were very appreciative of that, to a couple meetings in January and then again in February. And during the course of those meetings, it seemed that there was a desire to start evaluating this property, which is zoned in the SC zone. And it's one of only two properties. I think there may even be a third in the
There,
intervening
there
time.
is a third, a much smaller one.
Thank you. That was placed that are in this SC shopping center zone, and so there was an ensuing, dialogue and back and forth between Diamond, who's also been able to bring Dakota partners along as a multi-family developer, and start looking at could we make this a village in a village? Property, as the public may recognize and know it commonly as Alpine Commons, it fronts on Route 9. It already has a signalized intersection which goes in and out. This is where BJ's is presently. It used to have another 100,000 square feet of commercial space that was tenanted up there that has hollowed out. But it has great assets and bones. It has stormwater access already. It has sewer. It's eligible for the water district. So playing on that, staff and me as the attorney for Diamond and Dakota Partners, Brian Donato, Brendan Lloyd, their consultant, Steve Shore from Kitchen Associates, we all started sort of going to work, and you all were kind enough to put resources from the town's perspective towards that. Jim Horan, CPL, I guess Malcolm's not here at this present moment, but from Hardesty's office, Hanover, as planners. And so I think what's wound up on the agenda in the packet tonight is a draft of the law, which is really collaborative. There was some combating in there too, to get to collaborative, some concessions all around. We can go through really quickly. There's the law. We didn't know if you wanted to take the lead on that, but Steve from Kitchen Associates as a planner is very capable of walking you through the law.
Why don't you, for the benefit of the public, describe what you're looking at. I know the board members have a copy of the concept, right? And again, I emphasize this is a concept. It's not before the planning board. This is purely a vision, but after a lot of discussion going on. But why don't you, Neil, just describe the vision as it is now, and then you can talk a little bit about the code as relevant to that vision, right, to enable you to get there.
Yeah, so the property's 86 acres, so it's very large, and really there's a core in there that's already been developed. There's, part of the goal here is, not only for us as a landowner and a landlord with BJ's is to keep BJ's. As you also know, it's budget season, so you know what BJ's is, what BJ's represents to the town. Not only is indirectly through property taxes through Diamond Properties, but carving back on sales tax from them, even. So there's really very little planned for what's in the back of the property where the BJ's is and the parking area in front of it. What actually starts to happen is to the east of that, Dakota would like to build a multifamily project of about 144 units and a clubhouse and things of that sort.
It's actually south.
That is south, you're right,
Yes.
thank you. I'm looking at the page and I'm doing it in my head, you're right, thank you. There's also the existing, what we used to be, I guess, the Salvation Army building. It's about 100,000 square feet. So there's some playing with the idea of re-tenanting that building, but for more modern uses and breaking it up a little bit to some storefronts, but maybe also keeping some warehouse in the back so we can keep parking needs down. Also some ideas, and Steve can get into it a little bit better than I can, and candidly at this point, with the notion of maybe a podium above for some multifamily above, so you have shoppers who live there above. And then also, by mixing up the uses up there a little bit more, what you start doing is you lower the parking needs. And when you can lower the parking needs, you can take some of those asphalt fields and you can start greening them up and create, whether it's like, a multi-use space where you could have the farmer's market, you could have concerts, you could have little things there that also what we've seen in the retail world, the big box world is not what it used to be, and what you're seeing is that it's all about experience. It's all about what's unique. What can retailers do today that enables them to drive traffic because it's something different. It's a food place that's different. It's an entertainment aspect that's different. It's just experience of being, it's experiential is the key word if you listen to the Institute, the International Council of Shopping Centers. Everything's about being experiential. Also hoping to, on an out parcel west, I think, of the BJ's parking area, trying to recapture that space for some kind of, hopefully a restaurant with patio and really bring people forward. There's also discussion and entertainment of recognizing what our veterans have done and trying to create some kind of housing concept for our veterans. Probably back, there's thoughts of some tiny houses or just looking at different ways of giving them an opportunity that's ADA compliant, brings social services there, but gives them also some sense of dominion that it's in their own space.
So is that the Section 1 area off to the right you're talking about?
To the top.
That is
top?
correct.
Okay.
That is correct. That is 100%
Which has
correct.
the little boxes.
So those, and I was trying to do it without doing that so the public could sort of
Got it.
follow along, but you're right. So what we've done on the schematic, which was in the packet, which is on the town's website for anyone following along at home or on a smartphone in the building, because you guys have good Wi-Fi, is we've sort of broke it up into 6 areas. We've looked at it as more of a build out over time. This is not, boom, you have this. It's over time. And certain things need other things, right? So Dakota's here and ready to go with sort of the multifamily aspect of this. BJ's is committed to staying, and that brings a certain number of shoppers, right? Which will hopefully bring back people to wanting to use that area and that re-tenant the existing space. And then depending on how that gets re-tenanted, you can possibly go above. And then once you have all that connectivity, probably the restaurant folds in, and then it's a question of finding and chasing, candidly, the public financing for the veterans, back there. Albeit, I think Dakota has the ability to do something like that as a follow-on as well. So that's the overall concept, and it will take a period of years to come to fruition. And where we went back and forth with the town was trying to figure out how to unlock this from a code provision to create the potentiality of it. It's not at a site plan level. As each component rolls in, there would be a site plan and a special permit process. When you look at the fact that we have 86 acres, and you look at other mixed-use provisions in your code that exists, we're staying in the same kind of FAR, floor area ratio, we're staying at the same kind of density as exists in your code elsewhere. We're fortunate enough to have 86 acres, so when you play the math out, you wind up with similar coverage and things like that that already exists in your code, but we're proposing to create essentially a special permit process for large mixed use, which is sort of a riff off of your existing special permit process for mixed use. I think I covered a lot of it, but I don't know.
Just
Jen?
one quick question.
Yeah,
So,
please.
no gas stations, no storage?
Okay, so that's an excellent point too. So the answer is yes, we're not proposing any gas stations for this. Part of what we also have had discussions about, which is separate from, this drawing, but also again was in the packet on the website. Sorry to harp on that, but just to make it clear that everyone's been transparent here, has been a discussion of increasing the uses that are allowed in the SC zone. In a large part, really what it's talking about, the focus here is some of the use categories, they've morphed as to what is manufacturing. So is a distillery, it's manufacturing,
Sure.
right? A brewery.
3D printing.
Right.
A makerspace, perfect, exactly. So there are also proposed additions to the, I'm looking for my red line one, sorry, which is on the website. There are additions also to add certain uses, but there's a lot of thought that went into it. So for example, adding veterinarians' offices, but you only add the category of veterinarians' office that doesn't allow an outdoor run, right? So trying to bring connectivity, because believe it or not, that has become a huge category. It was already trending, the need for veterinary services and with pet adoptions before COVID, but in the last 3 years, I mean, as you know, most of the shelters were pretty empty as a result of COVID and things and people being around. all of a sudden, all these people have pets now, and they need, and the veterinary services are not what we all experienced when maybe we were younger. I got gray hair here. In that, it was a local practitioner who was just like a small vet or a large vet. They're rolled up with insurance and in groups that exist and have, 8, 10, 12, and so they're able to provide service. So that's something else we added. But, microbreweries, microdistilleries, modern version of manufacturing, because there aren't the same byproducts that manufacturing want. We're not using ash here. We're not fabricating in a heavy industrial way. And those things didn't exist in the SC zone, but what we're trying to facilitate essentially is true mixed use. And part of that is you need self-storage, you need warehousing, because that has a much different parking ratio. So you need those kinds of uses, especially considering you have a 100,000 square foot building. And what a great way to take it up. And part of what we've talked about, hopefully, again, this code only creates the potential. It doesn't say this will happen. It says it could happen. Is we're hoping that we can get the right mix of people to come, so that way the rear half of the building, the northern half of the building, we can sort of bisect it, create storefronts on the front half that face the parking area, but the back area, which has a robust loading, can become more like storage area, and it has a separate pathway to get there now. So those are the things we're trying to make happen, but you are correct. The vehicle-dependent uses, that was sort of the contention. Like I said, it was collaborative to a point, but it was also combative. If you go back to what we submitted in January, we had hoped for more vehicle-dependent uses to be added to this. That was not proposed, nor is it in the legislation.
Constructive criticism, not combative criticism.
Fair enough. At the end of the day, I know we had asked about, motor vehicle sales and things of that sort, and vehicle rental, but understandably so. If you look to the south and the north of this site, you have turnkey situations for that, for other people too. Why bring them to our site? Let's get those reused readily and quickly.
And, in our discussions, and correct me if I'm wrong, folks, but, the parking spaces shown here, that could also change. You might find some other mixed use, or, the whole, what I really stressed, and as Neil has said, is the village within the village, but taking sort of like the Eastdale, village concept, applying it though with Wappinger, because we're not a greenfield. We're, existing on already established, built up land. So what we want to try to do is make something that is unique, and certainly for our town. And, there is still a lot of parking space, but the architects, the engineers, and others, including council, are still looking at it, and so that will go to the planning board at some point in time. We're here looking at it from the legislative point of view of whether or not to adopt text changes that could enable something to be developed, like similar, what have you, to this.
And my position is clear. I've said this multiple times. We have got to think outside the box. We've got to adapt to this new reality of strip malls not being successful. That property right now is deteriorating. I was up there last week. The parking lot in front of the former Stop and Shop is deteriorating. The inside of the buildings are deteriorating. There are probably 100 kids up there with their race cars doing burnouts in the parking lot 2, 3 times a week up there. This is what happens to properties that are vacant. And if we don't allow for some responsible, low-impact development on that property, it's going to continue to deteriorate, and we may lose the anchor. Right. And we cannot afford to lose BJ's Wholesale Club on one of the most significantly commercial ratables in our town. Not that I'm saying that they're going to leave. I don't think they are, but there needs to be a complementary development on that property. If you look at the trends right now, you're seeing these types of mixed-use developments in Dutchess County. I've mentioned previously the Eastdale Village scenario with the housing and the commercial. That is no different than the next phase of the former Hudson River Psych Center, which started with their commercial ShopRite, be building their housing in the next phase at some point. this is what we need to start thinking about, and it's a no-brainer in my opinion. I understand that there are folks that are concerned about impacts, and I agree. I don't support a gas station up there, and there had been some rumors and buzz about that because BJ's, and years ago, BJ's had attempted to bring a gas station to that parcel, and that's been an ongoing conversation. But in this particular conceptual, that's not included.
And verbally, Diamond has made it very clear, in no uncertain terms, that there won't be a gas station there.
Right, and the biggest threat right now to the environment up there, in my opinion, is the asphalt. That is, the whole thing is way overpaved. It's been like that for the last 25 years or 30 years since they built that. Now, the top of that parking lot, where I'm hoping you're talking about, where there could be a potential restaurant up on the top, there's trees growing out of the asphalt up there now. So nature's taking it back. I mean, it's crazy. I don't think anyone's ever even parked up there and gone to a store in the entire time that you need like a golf cart to get down to the front of the store because it's so far away. So we need to think outside the box, and if these gentlemen are willing to put together conceptuals that are meeting our demands halfway, and the residents' concerns are being addressed. It's low impact. Light manufacturing in 2022 is a lot different than when we did the comprehensive plan in 2010. And I think it is worth taking a look at what is defined as light manufacturing today, whether it be distilleries or breweries or 3D printing, because that certainly wasn't what we were talking about in 2010.
Right.
Those things didn't really exist at that point. So this is what we need to be doing. The only thing I would ask is that we continue to move forward on this. These gentlemen are putting a lot of resources
Right.
into meeting our requests, but I'd like to see us move forward once we have met the parameters
Right.
set forth, because we need to stay ahead of what potentially
Right.
is going to be happening across the country. Again, we talked about this at the last meeting too. There's an uncertain future with respect to economics, and if we have people that are interested in investing in our town, we need to continue to take them seriously and not inadvertently delay the process.
So as to going forward, and I'll let Neil talk, summarize kind of the text changes, text amendment proposals, and then what we have on the agenda is to approve to call really basically a public hearing to discuss those, and that would be then a month later that we would have that public hearing. So that's the purpose.
I just have a quick question. Obviously, looking at the plan, BJ's is going to stay as it is. There was some talk about a hotel on that number 6
It's
parcel.
still, it's still something that could
Right.
happen. I think the notion is, that could go on 6 just as easily as that. We were just, I think this is more for illustrative purposes. I mean, we know that Dakota's here. And I'm putting a lot of words in your mouth, Steve. tonight. I'm sorry. Okay.
So is there like an order, hierarchy of the build-out of this?
I think what we're thinking is, look, we know Dakota's here to do 5,
Right,
right? We know BJ's is already on 3.
right.
I think if
2.
Diamond's purpose is to try and do as much on 2 as quickly as possible, right?
Yeah.
Certainly with the existing retail space, that's 100,000 square feet. And then, the hope is because of that energy and that economic activity, you can get into all the little amenities that you see, the greens, the tiny little, spaces that we're calling the marketplace at Alpine Commons, which is it's a tiny little kiosk is too small. There's more substantial, salt boxy feeling, smaller buildings to create, that sort of uniqueness, right? That's the hope there. And then from there, the question is, can we go podium above for a couple of stories with residential because there's enough interest in the area? Or does it pop over to 4 with more retail, restaurant, food oriented? And then, look, the reality is financing a hotel in the United States of America, forget New York, in the United States of America, based upon what we've just gone through with COVID and hotels, no one knows. I mean, I've had so many hotels that were supposed to be beside multifamily projects just disappear, and we just did a bigger multifamily. It was much, in urban areas I'm talking about, you know, cities of over 50,000 people where it's dropped out. So I don't even want to have any conjecture on, are we at the end of that? And people are going to start thinking about hotels again? I'm hoping.
I hope so.
I'm
I own a
hoping.
very large REIT, so.
You know, so it's all left to, as a possibility. I just don't know where the marketplace takes us.
And you've got plenty of time to figure it out, right? Because it's a 2-year plus.
Yeah, you got a couple-year build on 5. You got a re-tenanting, hopefully, which would take, you know, some time on those buildings.
And for 2, is that, can you use the existing structure, or do you actually have to knock it down and start over
I
again?
think the hope is to use as much of the existing structure as
Okay.
possible. I think it really depends on who arrives, right? And how they arrive, as to exactly how we do it, right? Obviously, to go above, you're going to have to demise out, but
But we've been studying, you've
Right,
been
that's
studying
exactly-
that, right?
That's exactly what I'm
So-
getting, you're exactly where I was headed. So, yes, the spans are huge in that building, you've been in it. Obviously, structurally, you'd have to shore it up massively. The hope is that the retail tenants come along that on the front end are smaller, so you're shoring up for demising that anyway, and then you could go up. That would be the hope.
For apartments, in other words.
Yes, for a couple of stories of apartments above.
Maybe even a white
They
tablecloth
do a lot,
restaurant with a
they
good
do a lot of
view.
that concept in
Well,
Florida. They have the
there's a lot of
retail on the
restaurants,
bottom
and
and then
there's a need
the
for apartments.
condos
Sorry,
up
Oh, I
on
know,
top.
but
The crosstalk
there's
got me.
also
Can you say that
a
again,
need here.
Mr. Casale?
I was saying, I've seen it in Florida where the bottom it's all the retail, and next story up is like a lot of
Right.
condos,
Right.
things like that. So it's a very nice concept that they do down there. I'm sure we do it
That's what
locally
they're
too.
Yeah,
doing.
right?
exactly.
But that's-
Not more retail, going to
No,
residents
no.
Right.
over the first floor.
Right.
It- you know,
Beacon is a good example of that. Beacon
Yes.
did a very good job of
Yes.
taking those storefronts
Okay.
and moving it toward 2 apartments.
Yep, no, exactly. I mean, that's the hope, and, you know, the grand slam is if, you know, maybe you get some kind of fun amenity for the residential above the retail as well.
Yeah, I think the challenge is, I mean, if you look at the new building they're putting up in the Village of Wappingers, it's only like 50 feet wide, and it has the storefront on the lower level and then the apartments on the second. These are huge, you know, hundreds of feet wide. You know,
Buildings,
that's
yeah.
the issue, I think, from an engineering standpoint. I would love to see, as you mentioned, businesses on the first floor and apartments on the second floor, second and third story, but I think that's a rebuild based on the existing construction of those wide buildings at this point. But more importantly, most importantly, is occupying this property, right? We just saw the housing study that was released by Dutchess County. Everybody saw that, just came out last week. The housing deficit, which we've talked about here before that study came out.
Right.
I mean, there's a reason why these complexes are being built, and they're at 95% capacity before they're done being constructed. At $2,200 a month. I mean, it just blows my mind that that type of demand is out there right now. And you know, that said, I would certainly hope we can have more affordable, workforce affordable housing, so that folks can pay less than that. But that said, I mean, the market is driving this, and there are people that are looking for housing in this town. We have 40,000 cars a day on Route 9 right there, and I've said this prior to Adams, I've said this prior to Alto Music. We can either have folks driving through our town or to our town. And if this is going to be a destination, which it sounds like it will be, certainly I support whatever we can do to help make that occur. That is a prime location in the center of our town that has so many opportunities, and I would hope that we can work together to create something very town-centered and special there. Thank you.
The apartments there would also play into the fact of the village. And you have buildings that are already there, and you have the infrastructure
Right.
that's already there. So it would be wiser, instead of doing new construction, to utilize what's already there.
That is the goal. We need to catalyze the site first by having the new construction on Lot 5, because Dakota's here to do that, and they're ready to do that.
Well, I'm just talking about number 2.
Yep, 2, hopefully, yeah, that's
That's,
what we're hoping.
I mean, that's what
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
hoping
I
versus,
think
you
the
know,
retailers-
doing virgin land and
No, no,
when you
it's
have
right.
that, so that's what I would like to see.
And that's
Yeah,
what
In
we've
any
been talking
development,
about.
so that's what I would like to.
That's been the core discussion on.
I just
doing
wanted
that,
to emphasize that,
Yep, no, I definitely, I mean.
because there's a
we're-
lot of malls in this area that are empty, that are dead.
well,
And there's
and
stores
if
that
you
come
read,
in,
The
and
biggest
then
mall in
they
America
leave.
is having trouble
Right.
redoing their
Exactly.
CMBS right now. let alone-
However, the hotels in Fishkill are always at 90% full. And that's been through COVID, and that's been for the last 15 years. So there's something to be said about that.
Neil,
That's
why
all
don't
I'm
you
gonna
go?
say.
There is absolutely no fight on this side.
Okay.
I think
Yeah, there's-
what, to go to the top of the item on the agenda, it's always sexy to get into the site plan, right? Because you start, before we can dream that way, we need to get the code aligned, but everything you're talking about, the rewrite of the code facilitates and allows to occur as opposed to it doesn't exist in the code today. So, yeah, I would love to hit that home run for my client too, as far as like seeing all of this happen. But I think that does happen if you look at, other communities in Dutchess County or across the river or to the south and north. These changes in the code, they induce people to say, oh, there's a there, there's something there, I want to know more. And all of a sudden, site selectors are talking up instead of driving by. And so that's really what we're hoping to do based upon, Diamond owns a lot of assets and they've turned around a lot of other properties all within, an hour drive of here. I mean, when Orange County Choppers went under, they went in and they turned that around. Before that, when Carl Icahn got rid of the Grand Union Distribution Center in Mount Kisco, 600,000 square feet. It was underwater and there was holes in the roof. It's now, completely been redone. It's where Spins Bowl and Grand Prix started as a concept. So they're good at doing this. We appreciate that we don't know your town as intimately as you do. So this has been a great process to sort of say, to us, that may work, but that's not what our brand is and what our community is about. And we heard you, and I think this has been really great as far as getting to the point of the legislation as it exists. And, a lot of clever things have been brought into this. Part of what's being asked for also is to create an open development area. So that way, on this property, so that way we don't have internal subdivision lines. So that way you can get these things close together and create that village and make it walkable. So that's another part of it, so that instead you're measuring setbacks from the outside of the property, which allows everything to get tighter inside the property. That's why you have that definition of the word development site in the write-up. And I think really, without going page by page, line by line, we really hit all of it. And I think, from the public standpoint, which really, in my opinion, important for them to understand, those who may be concerned about the concept of change, this is based on none of the things we're doing are more intense than what's already allowed under your code. So, did I miss any? Okay. So yeah, that would be fantastic. What'd you say?
didn't have to introduce anybody.
I didn't do a good job. I'm sorry.
Yeah, me too.
Thanks. I know, you're right. It's terrible. Brendan Lloyd with Dakota, Brian Donato is also with Dakota, and Steve Schock. I did that. I don't know why I did that. I'm sorry. Is from Kitchen and Associates, and I took a lot of what he did, and I got to run with it tonight. Thank you. That would be great.
What's the full name, Dakota, of your firm? Okay, because folks that are watching online, if you go to Dakota Partners website, you can see some examples of the beautiful work that they do architecturally.
And same with Diamond Properties.
Oh, Diamond, yeah,
Is-
Diamond.
Diamond is the commercial build out there. Dakota's more of the residential.
My kids do enjoy Spins Bowl, so big
Yeah.
shout out to Diamond.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, thank you, Neil.
But thank you.
Excellent.
Appreciate it.
Don't leave your briefcase here.
Is there yeah, I know, I don't even bring it in anymore. Is there did you say, someone said something about a resolution? I missed it.
That will be,
Oh.
that
That's all
will
late.
be later.
Thank you.
We've got some other things we need to cover right now.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, the next item, Mike Sheehan, talk about highways. Good evening, Mike.
Good evening.
Hi, Mike.
Have you all looked over the blacktopping roads that we want to
Yep.
do?
Yes.
Is there any questions?
Nope, when can you start?
The price is good to the 21st, it's at 70, and I'm hoping it stays there or goes a little below. There may be hope that it may go below 70.
Did
That's-
Tilcon
that's
even
my
bid,
hope.
Mike? Mike, did Tilcon even bid?
No. No, I haven't received, maybe tomorrow I'll get a call now.
So we have enough money in the budget already covered from the previous resolution we did last year. We did 2 years' worth.
Yes.
We did a resolution for 2.6. We spent 1.1. Mike needs 1.547. Frederick said we have about $160,000 carryover from 2021. So we have roughly 1.6. Mike needs 1.547 to complete the 7.17 miles.
I have no objection to
Neither
using
do I.
that funding.
Just, Mike, I just have one question regarding what was provided from Vail. At the bottom, they talk about a asphalt price adjustment. Does that apply in this case or not? Because what's scary is the state asphalt price adjustment went up 5% from March to April. Went from 276, oh, I'm sorry, it's fuel. It went from 624 a ton to 655 a ton in 1 month. So I'm just wondering, does that, I mean, if it's flat for the whole, going forward, and I know
Yeah, I'm
in
not
the
sure.
past, Clovis, cut us a break, or, well, this is actually failed, but I don't know if they're gonna hold that. I think one of the questions from a budgeting point of view, if they're gonna hold that price for the whole contract, it's fine. It's just-
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they would.
Yeah, because he actually says on it, it's good till the 21st of April.
Yeah.
After that, I would assume things go up, but he's got to confirm.
But Jim's
No,
talking,
but for the whole thing.
Yeah, for the whole project,
Yeah.
it should, yes.
So I
As long
mean,
as
if
we
you're
do
gonna get it
over 10.
delivered, I don't know if that price is still gonna be good when he's delivering June.
June, right. Can he
Well,
get it in
If it all
writing?
goes good, I'm gonna get it done as soon as possible, so we can keep,
Okay, so you're
around
gonna
that
pay.
area, yes.
Because a lot of times we don't pay them until the buses.
but Mike,
I did it last
Can we
year
get it in
early, and I'm
writing?
gonna, that's
did it
fine.
early.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we have
Yeah.
the contract, so Mike,
Yeah,
if he gets it done by the end of June, then we're looking good.
that'd be great.
Yeah.
I know they
That
said they
gives
were
me
gonna
all
take,
time to
the-
tie in all the driveways and everything,
Right.
so it's,
Yeah.
they said they take the millings. Steve, do you guys need any millings?
I take millings, and I got a couple spots around the town
Yeah,
that
that's what I was gonna ask.
I store it, so if we ever need it,
Yeah.
we have it.
Because
Okay.
I know we did over there at Rockingham, we did that.
Yeah.
Is there any more needed over there, or?
Probably so.
Okay.
And we're looking
We
at
did the-
like
we did the
Lee's
parking
Park,
lot
some
over
of the
there, so,
other
Yeah, I
areas as
can-
well.
My guys will haul the millings.
Okay.
As many- is where we
Okay.
need it, and we store it there.
It's just better for you to know prior to
Yes.
having piles of milling?
Yeah, because it says here, we can take our millings at our Fishkill plant.
Yeah.
Dale?
Dale takes them all if you don't want, but I have.
But you
four-
keep them all, right?
No, I don't keep them all. I keep what I can store, and I got, like I said, I did a couple different places in the town of Wappinger that the people let me store it, and if we need it, we have it.
And now you have the roller to do it too, right?
What's that?
You have the roller now too, correct?
Yeah, yeah. Well, we have the roller. We've had that.
So
So-
I mean, so you can do that.
Yeah.
So that's what you did for the Rockingham parking
Yeah.
lot?
Yep. And if we need material hauled to Reese's Park at the time, I could haul it there instead of hauling it to one area. We can get it right
that's
there
the
where we
idea
need
of
it.
some of this, yeah.
Just tell me where, Steve, and we'll haul it there.
But is everybody fine with the list of the roads?
Yes.
Okay,
I have
so
no-
when we get to the resolution, we'll do
Yeah,
that.
that's
But I
fine.
want to make sure, because last time around,
I'll
we had some.
I'll take a few
discussion.
more if you guys want to give it to me.
No, listen, you're not getting any
No,
more.
you're not getting any more.
Bill is only one.
I got
don't you?
Marlville, I got the
How
whole
many do I
Marlville,
have?
so
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah, no, I know.
That's good with me. I have no objection to what Councilman Casella said with regard to funding it through the existing funding that we have. Not a problem. I want to give a shout out to Mike Sheehan, though, because I called him out of the blue the other day at like 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning, because somehow in the middle of a state road, 9D, there was a pile of gravel or concrete or
Concrete.
something.
Concrete.
Fell out of a
Concrete.
cement truck
Yeah.
and made a mound in the south, or the northbound lane of 9D, like it was sitting at the traffic light during the morning rush hour. So I called Mike because, you know, if a motorcycle hit that, this would have been a major issue. And despite it being a state road, Mike basically dropped everything and sent a crew over there and cleaned it up. And that is above and beyond. I mean, he cleaned it up and then called the state and told them to clean it up. But he got it out of the road.
And you sent him the bill, right?
It was like a 2-foot high mound of concrete. I've never seen anything like it before, right in the middle of the road. So you'll see it right now. You'll see it's where it
there's
was.
remnants,
But
yeah.
Mike dropped everything and had his crews get on that emergency cleanup ASAP. So thanks for doing that. Thank your crews for doing that. That was above and beyond.
Yeah, and he's fielding questions as we're getting ready to see Old Hopewell. You know, some of the old issues because of the winterization didn't address, you know, some of the roads, and, you know, there's concerns about flooding as we've gotten rain.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so the same old issues, but Mike's been right out there. We've been very fortunate.
Well,
to have
again,
him
with
look at
that
it.
job, it's a county job with a contractor, right? So Bob Balkind's been very responsive to us
Right.
with concern. So before that contractor is done, Supervisor,
Yep.
you know,
Mike and I
you
will-
all should go out there
Oh, yeah.
with,
Oh, yeah.
with Mr. Balkind
Yep.
and take a walk around and make sure that it meets the satisfaction of everybody
That's the
before
plan.
that contractor's
Will do.
done. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure you will.
that's a
Yeah.
major project that cannot,
Yeah.
that drainage cannot be messed up.
No.
And, you know, people were concerned, they didn't understand that it wasn't a completed project
Right,
because
it's
of
not done
winter
yet. It's not
coming.
done
They
yet.
Yeah,
did what-
I get a lot of calls
We
about
got,
it,
you
and
know, I
tell
do
them
too,
back.
you know, and so we address it, but Mike and I are prepared to go out there and look at this, you know, very closely with Bob.
Also, keep an eye on those traffic lights. When they turn those traffic lights on, we want to make sure that those are timed appropriately, because we've had issues where new traffic lights go up, and it actually slows the entire process down. So, you know, you
Especially when we have 3 major intersections where
Right.
the lights are going up.
Right, so,
there's a
I mean,
timing issue.
you're out there on that road, I mean, you're out there on that road
Yeah.
multiple times a
Yeah.
day. Even though it's a county road, I would continue to communicate with the county commissioner of public
Right.
works to make sure that it meets the standard of our community.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you,
Very
Mike.
good. Thanks,
Appreciate
Mike.
it.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You
Thanks,
all have a
Mike.
good night.
Where's
too.
Frederick? Frederick, are you listening? Come on up. There he is. Yeah, see?
What, was he sitting in the hallway?
He watches it on, you know, computer.
He's watching it on his phone out there?
Yeah. Come on up, Frederick, and talk about the financial condition where we are today after first quarter.
He doesn't need one.
And then after this, Dick, we're going to take a short break, go
Okay.
into executive session
Okay,
for the interview.
okay, you can.
Thank you.
Call it.
Can't believe the
I
first
need it.
quarter's over already.
Huh?
I can't believe the first
No,
quarter's
I
over
know.
already.
Thank you,
Oops.
Frederick.
Need to take a rest.
Thank you.
No, I can't either, but also, you know, it's, as we've discussed, Bill, you know, I think in the board, you know, we have to keep a close eye on these numbers because, you know, the economic situation is likely to not get better anytime soon.
True.
So I think, Frederick, go ahead, give us a review of where we are at the end of March.
So this is a review of the first 3 months of this year. And I'm going to look at some of our major revenue lines, our expenditure lines, and also our fund balance position as of the end of the quarter compared to where we were at the end of last year. When we're looking at the A fund or the townwide, we can see that in the fines and forfeited bail, we are currently averaging 30,000, and it continues. And we should be able to meet and surpass our budget because 30,000 times 10, that's 10 months is 300, and add another 60, 360, and our budget is only 332,000. So I would say that we are in good shape. And I would say the same thing for mortgage tax. We know that we did really well last one. And so far, the first 3 months, we're averaging 85,000 a month. Our budget is only 464. So we should be more than able to meet and surpass the budgeted revenue of 464,000. Rental of real property, we are at 56,024. And that's just the first 3 months. Also more that we as well. Looking at other lines like building permits, 20%, 70,000 from annual budget. Inspection fee, 17,000. Zoning fees, 33%, 5,000. And I also just wanted to talk a little bit about the ARPA funding, which we received in the summer of last year. There was a bit of a clarification of how this was supposed to be treated accounting-wise. Originally, if you remember, I had mentioned that I'd taken the money into a capital fund. But the Office of the State Comptroller has since clarified that that amount should actually stay in the A fund, pending determination of how it's supposed to be used. So we actually had to move the money back from capital into the A fund this month once we got the guideline. So it's currently sitting in the liabilities as a liability in the A fund. And that's why when we look at the fund balance on the next page, part of fund balance because the other thing is that I think as a board we need to very, very soon deadline. By the end of this month, we are supposed to report online project expenditure as of 30th April 2022. I know it's not easy to come up with spending within the next few days, but I think if we can decide where the money, at least we can indicate, report that we have decided on spending it in this area and that area, but we haven't done it yet. At least they can read whatever sent to them in the report.
I think during our workshop
Right.
on Saturday, we had discussed some projects that certainly could be eligible, and it's then a matter, I think, Jim and Frederick, of what degree of specificity do we need, or is it just sufficient to say sewer and water and put in parenthetical these possible projects? What degree of specificity do we have to have for ARPA?
For the ARPA, they're saying
By
that.
the April 30th to identify the intended use, or can we say sewer and water build out, or, what is the level?
I'll look at that. I mean, I think that's fine based on, I could look at the
Well,
treasurer's regs.
if both of you would look at, I'll work with
Sure.
Frederick, then at our next board meeting, we can make the official determination.
Yeah, because it does say,
The money has, the issue though is the money's gotta be spent by next year.
Right.
Right?
I think the last date is actually December 2020.
For the first round. For the first half, it's the end of 2023.
Yes.
Right, then the second,
December
tranche will be
2024.
later.
Yeah.
So, you
Right.
you don't wanna be in a position where you put it on a project
Right.
that's not gonna be completed
Right.
by 2023.
Well, for example,
Then you'll lose the money.
we have, a couple major sewer projects that are underway, that could be done, right? And
Right.
we're going to, talk about some resolutions tonight pursuant to the grant. That's one of them. So I think, those we can identify, and it's really just a matter of what specificity do we have to have for the purpose of that.
So you can't spend it on the house. You
What?
need to spend it on a project.
So I think before the next board meeting,
Right.
we'll discuss it and figure out, and then during the board meeting, there'll be further discussion.
So as long as we can keep it general, we're fine. If we got to get specific, then we need to know that, because we have specific projects we can do, as we described in the
Number of
workshop session, so
I mean,
certainly.
the ARPA funding is very limited as to what it could be used
Right.
for, so.
Oh, but it says in there,
Primarily
Frederick's
water.
got it, water, sewer, broadband, et cetera, so we understand. So again, can it be general? We're going to put it, $1.1 million towards sewer, because we certainly have enough sewer updates we need to make that are going to be more than 1.1 million.
Yeah, I mean, the only concern, like I said, the concern is that
It has to be finished
The
by the
shovel has to be-
23rd.
Yeah, I understood, and I think we'll be
Finish
there
by the
with
23rd.
two,
Right.
probably.
So I guess that question is, does it have to be completed or started? Because,
the
As you know-
funding has to
To be
be
completed, I-
committed.
oh, committed.
So I
Okay,
believe
because-
if you have a contract signed, out to bid, contracts back, the project has been approved and everything else. I think that, based on what I read previously, I believe that constitutes,
Okay.
Okay,
being
because
committed.
as we know, and we've had this discussion, projects take
A little
Yeah.
longer.
an
Forever.
extra long time through this process, which is very frustrating.
Yes.
Well, and that's one of the
Well
concerns,
put.
whereas, for example, the Midpoint Park project,
Right.
I think it would need DEC approval and everything else, and that would be a project that I think would be very hard to get to the finish line by
But I mean, we
2023.
talked about the water line into the town hall.
Yeah.
That would be ideal.
Right,
That road
right,
won't be
right.
done Probably till I retire, so.
Well, But, we have water interconnection, that's $1
Right.
million, right?
No, I
Right
mean,
there, that has to
right.
go. We already got the, state funding for that.
Water interconnection, the Wildwood sewer.
Yeah,
I mean,
those two are,
they're
Those
easy.
those are the two of the
They're
big
low
projects.
hanging fruit.
right?
Most importantly, we need to understand what the parameters are for identifying the projects by April 30th, 2022. So, I deal with grants every day. Do they need an entire project list, detailed? I mean, this is what we need to know, because we're going to have to hustle this out. We've already talked about a number of projects that could meet the parameters of this, but realistically, do we need to identify specifically what
Right,
these
yeah,
projects
that's my
are?
question.
That's what we need to.
If we need to, I think we have that for the project over there on Wildwood, right? Because we already know the specifics. We know how much it's going to cost. We know the timeline. I think so if we have to go to that level of detail, then you apply the 1.1 million against that. But I'm hoping it's more of a general thing that we're able to do that too.
As
Because
we
again,
look
we
for
have
other
other.
sources of
Yeah,
funding and
yep.
so forth, yep, no, exactly. So Jim and, Frederick and I will work together and get back to you with the degree of specificity that is required, what we need to have passed on that date of the board meeting, okay?
So Frederick, just real quick, so from a revenues highlight, I mean, it looks like we're in good shape, either on plan or a little bit slightly ahead for all of the revenue highlights that you pointed out here. So that's a good thing. So we just want to continue that progress.
Thank you.
Right,
you.
thank you. Moving on to the revenue. A major part of our revenue comes from property taxes. We receive that 100% usually by the first quarter. We got that in. That's why we are at 73%. The annual budget was 2.8 million. In the B fund,
So the one
I
thing
know
you should
they're
make,
working on an agreement.
so the one thing you should clarify in that 3.2 million, which is 73% of the budget, the biggest piece on there is really
Yeah,
the
yes.
property tax, right,
Yes.
from February. So that's why we are, and we're equal to what we were basically in 2021, correct? Roughly at 73%?
Yes,
Yeah,
Okay.
yep.
that's right.
In the B fund, we have received 120,000. Now, a major portion of our B fund is sales tax. I know they are working on a new agreement. We are yet to get an indication as to when the disbursement of the funds are going to be for the first quarter. That's why we are not reporting anything as of now, but last month, we received $1.3 million being sales tax growth just for 2021. In other words, we budgeted for $1,094,000 in the B and DB funds, but we received an additional $1.3 million.
But again, our budget for this year accounted for 800,000 of
Yeah.
that growth number. So, you know, in
Well-
our budget to meet our expenses, we already accounted for part of that
Yeah, so
1.3 million.
which really 500,000 is the extra when you.
Yeah,
take
we
that
did
into-
increase our budget because we, as you remember, we moved the Parks Department from A into B, and we did increase our budget by about 800,000 in the sales tax, from 1 million to 1,800,000.
But we're also conservative on the sales tax revenue, right? Because what we put in the budget is what we're guaranteed by the county, correct? So anything that goes above and beyond that, it's a benefit to us.
Yes, I have no doubt that we'll be able to achieve the sales tax that we budgeted for. Expenditure-wise, we are more or less where we were same time last year in the A, B, and DB funds. Our cash balances are as I've indicated there. The capital, that's the balance as of end of March. And at that time, we had not moved back the ARPA funds back into the A, because we did it just this month. Looking at fund balances at the end of the year, and I wanted to give a comparison of where we were end of December and right now. So A fund, we are at 1.5 million. When I look at what I reported end of December, it was 1.6 million. So there's a slight reduction by about 117,000 from what I reported. On the other hand, in the B fund, I'm now reporting 6.9, and at that time I reported 5.6. So the difference there is 1.3 million, which is the growth that we have just talked about, the 1.3 million. And in the highway, I reported 3.4 million in December, and now I'm reporting 3.6. So that's an increase of 241,000. So should there be a situation where we need to move additional monies for paving just because of the incremental prices, I think we should have no problem in moving funds from either the highway or the B fund for the paving work.
So one question for you. Are we
Yes.
still waiting for outstanding bills from 2021 to come in?
I would say a maximum of about 20,000, so
Minimal? Minimal amount to come in?
minimum of 5,000.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
We have booked most of them. We are going to do a cutoff end of the month. If anything comes after that, we'll just put it in the current year.
Okay.
So that concludes my presentation for this evening.
Thank you, Frederick.
Welcome.
Thank you, Frederick.
Frederick, thanks.
Yeah, no,
Yep.
thanks very much.
Questions?
I'd be curious to see what the methodology for the sales tax formula, how
Right,
that
yeah, that
ends up.
started the discussions.
I mean, again, for those that aren't aware, obviously, sales tax, cities have the ability to collect their own sales tax, or they can choose to have the county do the calculation, and the county of Dutchess chooses to share what's left over after the cities of Beacon and Poughkeepsie. The county shares with the towns and local municipalities. Not every county does that. We've seen some fluctuation over the years just based on that negotiation, because ultimately the lion's share of sales tax goes to the cities, and that's just by statute. Here in Dutchess County, though, the county has shared sales tax with the local municipalities as well. But again, I don't know what the negotiation was this time around or how it's going to
That's still in process, then.
Although for 2022, we're still using the old agreement,
Oh,
right?
we're using the old one,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
because it's
right
supposed to
now.
expire in 2023.
And that's what we booked in the budget, so
Yes.
anything above and beyond
For
that
this
is pure gravy.
Yeah.
Well, and not for nothing, but we have been fortunate over the last 18 months especially with our sales tax,
Yes.
because we now receive sales tax from online sales that are coming through the county and
Correct.
adding to the whole amount. So folks that were, home during COVID, that were online buying lots of things, benefited the county, and subsequently the local
The towns,
municipalities.
right.
You know, but now with the gas tax reduction, the state tax reduction, which is effective June 1st, I believe, is the budget approved yet or no? They're still finalizing?
Sure, I haven't seen it.
So the state budget has potentially a 16-cent decrease per gallon for state tax, which they're doing from June 1st through December 31st. And then the county was talking about potentially doing 2 to 4 cents per gallon, depending on what the calculation was.
Aren't they going to cap it?
So remember, though, that 2 to 4 cents is also going to affect overall revenues for sales tax.
I don't know if that's considered sales tax, that's the only thing.
That's my understanding, but I could be wrong. But that said, there have been some changes here, you know, with the calculations in recent weeks. So we have to keep our eye on the ball there. But if we're using last year's formula, then we're good until the end of this year.
Right.
Right, but,
The one, to the ARPA discussion as far as the use of funds, and I don't know, based on the discussion of sales tax, I don't know if we had a decrease in revenue as a result of COVID, because that's one of the other,
Right.
to the extent your municipality has been impacted by COVID with a reduction in revenue, you can use the funds to offset that reduction. in
Yeah, as we
revenue.
talked
I don't
about
think
before,
we-
we have.
I don't
really
think we
haven't.
did see a reduction in
We
revenue.
had some costs, but
And
not.
then the other thing you can
reduction
do
in
is you can reimburse the municipality for costs that they incurred as a result of COVID, so, you know.
Right.
I know we tracked that, we
Yeah,
applied
Frederick
for some
tracked
of
it.
but-
We track that, but I mean, I think you're going to
It's
see
minimal.
nominal.
It is.
You
It's
know,
very small.
very small, any potential FEMA reimbursement, and that's what that COVID money is for, to fill those gaps. I mean, yeah, we spent some money and we had to do some things, but it's really
But
minimal.
we're able to better manage it, and by also keeping our folks employed, we didn't have the big hits that some areas had.
The only, I think, revenue we can agree that we saw was obviously the court, which is not technically
Correct.
considered revenue, but we saw decreases
Yeah.
in any net there on the, because the court was closed, but then you can argue that they're making up the caseload now.
Well,
Yeah, I mean,
well, the COVID, actually, initially they had rejected our application based on the fact that we had expenses that they felt didn't qualify, but later on they came back and said, okay, now give us all everything. So
Yeah.
they did not accept the legal, but whatever we were able to supply them, we are at about 21,000, the first phase, which I have 99% certainty that we're going to get back. And then we have just submitted a second phase of about the same amount. So we are looking at about 42,000.
It's come out pretty well compared to what we thought when we initially thought we get zero.
Yeah, the only thing they were looking for was when we were doing the deep cleaning, they want us to, tell them why, we did not do competitive, did not, but we are working on that. Because it was an emergency, it had to be cleaned at once. So the COVID, we are working on the reimbursement, and it looks like we are going to get the money. Yep.
Yeah, Frederick's worked hard on getting that recouped.
Well, the COVID reimbursement through FEMA is not an easy process, especially since it went on for so long. I mean, for all we know, it's not over. We don't know. Hopefully it is, but we don't know.
Thanks, Frederick. Thanks for the
Really,
review.
Frederick, thank you.
Yeah. So we're done that report. Al, you wanted to? take
Yeah,
a
so I wanted
short break?
to take a short break and go into executive session for an interview, and then we'll come right back out.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Thank you.